If humanity is a body, fascism is cancer. Its only goal is to kill, and once everyone else is dead, it turns on itself. Hi, I'm Zachary Exum, and welcome to Left Behind. The United States of America is statistically one of the worst first world countries to live in. And there are so many theories about why, that's ranging from crazy to too specific or too broad. But here's what I think is the main driver of our poorly functioning society: the uniqueness, normalization, and unforgiving nature of American cruelty. At least to the working class, the best quick example I can give to describe this is healthcare. Every first world country, and even some second and third world countries, provide universal healthcare to their citizens, all except the United States. A story I've heard 100 times too often, and I live this story myself, is I can't go to the doctor because there's no way for me to pay for it. I've known people to lose loved ones to exactly that reality, and many health issues that could be preventable go ignored because the tests or treatments that are too expensive, and even doctor's visits, are too expensive. There's got to be a reason for the seemingly blatant cruelty. So who does this benefit? America is a very individualistic, free market, capitalist driven country. So maybe it's to save people money. But private health care, private health insurance, and private pharmaceuticals are many times more expensive than any universal health plan, including the taxes used to fund them. The people a private healthcare system benefits are those who own it. Insurance companies, private clinics and hospitals, privately owned drugstores, and the shareholders in those companies. I'm sure it won't surprise you that many politicians and lobbyists have large shares in these stocks. We've known this for years, and yet politicians and the media choose to lie to people about how effective universal health care is, despite the fact that you can just look at any of the other countries that use it. Then, they'll block any proposals to enact it, no matter the popularity it has. This is blatant cruelty that is unique to the United States, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, even on the healthcare issue. I'm not going to get into insulin prices or how private health facilities discriminate against anyone who isn't straight and white. Police violence is normal around the world. That's why a lot of leftists don't like the police in general. It's state-mandated violence. But American police act very similarly to the police of fascist countries like Russia and China. The Spanish police may be cruel and violent against the Catalonians, but not much can compare to how the United States police routinely kill people, mainly minorities, but no one is safe. It's not just the killings either. They pepper spray children, tear gas any and everyone, which is a war crime under the Geneva Convention, and they even bombed a neighborhood in the 80s. All these things aren't just insanely cruel, but they never get rectified. Qualified immunity allows any court case that's brought against police that statute hadn't been brought up before 1983 to be dropped. So the baseline of justice in court is pressing charges for something that had been done before 1983. Any new type of case isn't even considered. On top of that, the police consistently take the side of the perpetrator if they're white. Just look at what this officer said about the recent Atlanta shooting.
Sheriff, did you have the sense that he understood the gravity of what he did? When I spoke with investigators, they interviewed him this morning, and they got that impression that yes, he understood the gravity of it, and he was pretty much fed up and kind of at the end of his rope, and yesterday was a really bad day for him, and this is what he did.
That same officer had recently shared belittling posts about Asians online. For decades, institutions like the FBI have been telling us that the U.S. police force is being infiltrated by white supremacists. And it seems even with all the mounting evidence that the general public and our government still don't believe them. Or at least they don't care. I could make a whole series on the problems with the police, but I've got a lot more to cover. so I'll just let you have a compilation of unnecessary police violence in America.
She's walking away!
Hey, fucking do that! Get the fuck on! Get the fuck on! Don't touch me either. Fuck you do again. What the fuck you gonna do, man? I'm leaving.
He's not doing anything! He's on protest!
Get the fuck on! Go! Get the fuck on! Get out of here! Fucking leave it!
Just like the police, many things in this country were founded, or at least utilized, to uphold white supremacist values. One such thing that spiked in use during the Civil Rights Movement and peaked during Obama's presidency is the filibuster. The filibuster is a non-constitutional rule that was started by Aaron in 1806 that says you can't end a debate on a bill unless there's a 60-vote majority, or the percentage equivalent at the time. This means that as long as you keep talking on the floor, there can't be a vote. This has been repeatedly used to block civil rights legislation, as well as literally anything the Obama administration tried to do. This was made worse in 2013, when you stopped needing someone to even speak to filibuster. If someone said they wanted to filibuster, and there weren't enough votes to overturn it, then the vote just didn't happen. The filibuster needs to get gone, so that our Congress can function. But even if it doesn't, at least we could revert it back to the old rules where someone had to actually speak, so even if it takes multiple days, a vote can still happen eventually. Our country and government are fucked up in its entirety. But one party in particular is so egregious that there's not even a comparison in places like Europe. In Europe, the US Democratic Party would be considered conservative. The Republican Party's values aren't represented in European politics because they're ridiculously cruel and dysfunctional. Not only is the Republican Party essentially a fascist party, beyond the cruelty, racism, and etc., the policies don't work well anyways. That's when they have policies. The Republicans have been saying they're going to replace the ACA since it was passed, and they still don't have a bill. Under Trump, they kept lying about having a bill, to the point of bringing a blank book onto 60 Minutes. Now they have nothing except don't let people vote. And they talk about bullshit that private companies choose to do. Seriously, they blame Democrats for private companies deciding to stop selling racist books and rebranding their products. Every single thing I've seen modern conservatives do is a projection of their own problems onto their opposition. The things they do wrong, they blame on Democrats, or socialists, or the woke mob. It's childlike behavior. It's also fascist behavior. Doublespeak is when you say one thing and do the opposite. And it's the core component of authoritarian control. Everything Republicans do utilizes doublespeak. I wish this was hyperbole. Just listen to the plans Mitch McConnell has.
When Republicans next control the government, we'd be able to repeal every bill that had just been rammed through. And we'd set about defending the unborn, exploring domestic energy, unleashing free enterprise, defunding sanctuary cities, securing the border, protecting workers' paychecks from union bosses. You got the picture.
This is another topic I'd like to explore more, but I just wanted to point these things out. The USA is uniquely cruel in a number of ways, and it's not only disgusting, but it's what will not only destroy our country, but since we have so much power, the world. A fascist America would mean the end of the world, whether that's through nuclear war, climate disaster, or even worse possible fates through new technologies, like something AI could do. The media makes this worse. All news channels on regular television and most newspapers are owned by billionaires. And the material interests of billionaires are a whole lot different than yours. Whether you're in poverty or make millions, the billionaires don't care about the same things you do. It's beyond the news too. Billionaires also give huge donations to political campaigns and conservative pundits online, like Ben Shapiro and PragerU. When the most powerful people in the country control almost all the media you consume, is that not exactly like North Korea? And why don't Americans rise up and revolt more? Our country was founded by revolution, and when the French president blinks wrong, the citizens throw bathtubs through the windows of his mansion. Why are we such pussies? If we implemented a general strike, or even sustained protest, we could have anything we wanted from the government. But the best we can get is a few months after the millionth gruesome police killing, and half the country hated those protesters, even though they were fighting for their rights. The TV, or radio, or Ben Shapiro said, I shouldn't like BLM, so I don't. Billionaires and politicians are using you to keep your own fellow working class person down. I've got one thing to say to all conservatives in America. Grow a pair. And grow up. For real. Why don't we overthrow the government? Well, when you're poor, you don't have much of a chance. You've lived a shitty life, you're always tired, and you've got everything to lose. It's lower class depression. And that's paired up with middle class apathy. The middle class, despite also being used by the elites, live well enough to not have to care that the lower class or minorities are being inhumanely treated, or even that they aren't treated fairly either. The only way to alleviate lower class depression is to work together through mutual aid and help each other. And the only way to overcome middle class apathy is to educate them. Let them know that what they see on the news is wrong, and what they were taught in school is wrong. I encourage everyone who sees this to research the topics I brought up, and at least be aware of the fact that we don't have to be this way. But as of right now, America chooses to be unnecessarily cruel to its people. I literally didn't even bring up our foreign policy, which is minimum 3 times worse. I also didn't even mention prisons, which is such a huge part of the cruelty. We have the most incarcerated people in the world, 25%, even though China and India each have more than 3 times our population. The list of injustices that the rest of the world doesn't engage in is long and grueling. All of this is very depressing, but the most important part of fighting against it is having hope. So this is my piece of hope I'm giving to you. Thank you. I know we can do better.